Was there an ancient Grandmaster stronger than Yoda, and that maybe could have competed with even Luke? Greetings Acolytes, and welcome back to the Archives. In Star Wars lore, one thing is made very clear. Ancient Force wielders always seem to have a leg up in their competition for the most powerful users, whether they be Jedi or Sith. The secrets they knew were often lost to history, making the subsequent Jedi and Sith orders weaker as a result of this lost information. Over time, we look back at some of the Force wielders which existed thousands of years ago in the lore, and speak of how amazingly powerful they were, while comparing them with who we consider to be today's strongest in the galaxy. But there is one debate that we here at the Archives are not quite sure about yet, and that is the Grandmaster Nomi Sunrider and how she would compare to Grandmaster Yoda. Nomi Sunrider was an ancient Jedi who became Grandmaster of the Order following the death of Exar Kun, but the feat she pulled off during her time as a Jedi has led many to believe that she is even stronger than Yoda is. Well, as you know, we couldn't possibly pass up this discussion, so it was time for our researchers to open up some scrolls and meditate on the truth. So today, join us as we open up a holocron and determine if Nomi Sunrider was truly more powerful than Yoda, making her the most powerful Jedi Grandmaster before Luke. First of all, there may be some of you who are unfamiliar with Nomi, or just may need a refresher, so let's do a quick recap of who she is. Nomi Sunrider was the wife of a Jedi Knight back in the days of the old Sith Wars. This was around the year 4000 BBY, when Jedi were spread out more and more around the galaxy and were allowed to fall in love and have children. On one occasion, Nomi and her husband were at an airport to deliver a bag of kyber crystals to the Jedi Temple on Ossus. However, they were attacked by thugs who wanted the kyber for themselves, and her husband died while protecting his family. In a rage, Nomi picked up his lightsaber and unleashed her devastating potential in the Force, as she slaughtered each and every one of the thugs with her husband's blade. Afterwards, her husband appeared to her as a ghost, instructing her to seek out the Jedi Master Thawne on the world of Ambria, and it would be there where she would find her training as a Jedi. Although Nomi was frightened by her power and swore off ever using a lightsaber again, she traveled to Ambria and trained under Jedi Master Thawne. What would happen over the course of the next little while was her learning to overcome her fears and how to hone her extremely strong connection to the Force and insanely devastating powers. The Jedi Knight Nomi would play a pivotal role in the Great Sith War against Exar Kun, and she would even be the one who led the entire Jedi Order in defeating and trapping the spirit of Exar. In the end, she would become Grandmaster of the Order, a position that she retained for the remainder of her life. Although Nomi would get over her fear of using a lightsaber and began to wield one quite frequently after the start of the war, she wasn't as proficient with it as some of the other Jedi. That didn't matter to Nomi though, as she much preferred using the Force in combat against Dark Jedi and Sith. A lot of Nomi's raw power would actually come from her master in Thawne. Thawne was a quadrupedal animalistic species known to be something of a hermit, and it was said that he knew many secrets about the light side that even members of the Jedi Council did not know, and his claim to fame would be his powers in Force light. He would actually use this to trap and contain a Sith curse inside of a lake on Ambria, and this will be much important to our story later, as this power was something that he passed on to Nomi, who made it her staple ability. But before we jump into that, let's recount some of Nomi's greatest feats. Nomi obviously has far less feats than someone like Yoda, but they are impactful and a huge testament to her power. What's interesting about Nomi is just as the dark side inherently calls to some, the light side inherently called to her, and she was on record as being one of the most naturally gifted light side wielders in all of galactic history. So strong that we say that this would be a modern Sith Lord's nightmare. While she was able to use moderate applications of telekinesis, and was able to reflect blaster bolts with Terminus, Nomi's real powers lied in the realm of the mind. Nomi was talented in battle meditation, able to rally and meld together the minds of hundreds or even thousands of Jedi, having them all work together in unison. But when directing her battle meditation towards the enemy, she could confuse them and command them to kill one another instead. She was able to concentrate and shatter the Sith spell controlling a group of dark disciples and creatures known as the Hissis, and this wouldn't be the first time that she managed to break dark side influence. There was once a dark sorceress by the name of Alima Kido, who used Sith secrets in battle meditation to conjure massive illusions during space conflict. She used this power to either conceal Exar Kun's fleet or to make it seem much larger than it was, creating monstrous creatures of nightmares to frighten the opposing pilots and and make them spin out of control. Alima pulled this off quite often to secure victories for the Sith Lord. However, when she met Nomi Sunrider in battle, Nomi could sense that this was all just a simple illusion, and used her own battle meditation to utterly crush it. But it doesn't end here. Nomi uses the Force to penetrate Alima's mind. Using the ability known as Mind Shard, it's described as fingers of bright force of energy entering Alima's mind and tearing apart her very thoughts. But as we stated earlier, Nomi Sunrider's greatest ability was Force Light, or the power of the Wall of Light. This was a powerful Jedi secret that few have been able to master. Its properties are many, and not always straightforward, but 3 specific Jedi Masters who knew of how to use it to great effect were Jedi Masters Thrawn, Arkajeth, and Odin The Wall of Light was the ability to conjure the purest form of the light side of the Force, doing so in a way that countered the dark side without fail 100% of the time. Many Jedi considered this to be the most powerful light side weapon in all of the lore. It could either contain the dark side or destroy it completely. The Jedi Arkajeth used it to purify an entire planet of Freedinad's power, and to trap his spirit inside of a sarcophagus. Thrawn used it to trap an entire Sith curse inside of a lake, and now Nomi would use it to freeze and trap Ulic Qel-Droma in a stasis of pure light. And later, she would combine her power with all of the other Jedi in the Order in order to form a massive wall of light, and trap Exar Kun's spirit in his temple for eternity. But perhaps her most infamous feat was how she used this ability in a unique way against Ulic Qel-Droma. Ulic had once been a Jedi that Nomi fell in love with, but after he was poisoned, he turned to the dark side and became Exar Kun's apprentice. Nomi would do everything she could to defend him to the other Jedi, and tried numerous times working with Ulic's brother Kay to bring him back to the light. However, during the destruction of Ossus, Ulic would kill his brother in a fit of rage. Nomi, watching this all happen, was overcome with emotion and distress. Ulic had a moment of clarity and was left vulnerable as he cradled his brother's dead body in his arms. When this happened, Nomi, in her despair, used a Force Light technique inside of Ulic's body, blinding him to his power in the Force. This would render him unable to sense or to use the Force at all. Nomi had done this in a flash of emotion, and even though she regretted doing this, she had no idea how to reverse it, since so few people knew how to use Force Light. Nomi was taught how to do this by Master Odin who was now dead thanks to Exar Kun. One thing that should be mentioned though, a very common misconception is that Nomi stripped Ulic of his ability to use the Force, in the same way that Nihilus and Sion had stripped the Force from Kreia. This is not the case though. When Nomi did this, she was simply blocking his ability to use it by blinding him to the Force. And it was revealed thanks to the Redemption comics that Ulic was able to regain his connection to the Force in his last moments of life. And so you have it. These are the powers and feats of Nomi Sunrider, the woman who is alleged to be the strongest Jedi Grandmaster in history. We have absolutely no doubts that she was indeed powerful. Her raw talent in the Force, combined with her training by some of the most venerated Jedi ever, resulted in her becoming the strongest Jedi of that era by far, and the other Jedi would agree. But here's where we return to our original argument. Is she stronger than Yoda? At first glance, many would say that yes, she is. Had she been Grandmaster during the time of the Clone Wars, not only would the wars be over much sooner, but she would have been Sidious's worst nightmare. Her abilities to break Sith curses and override dark side powers with nothing but her mind and willpower make her absolutely terrifying to any wielder of the dark side, especially the Sith. Not to mention her Wall of Light ability would be sure to send the Night Sisters of Dathomir running. But this doesn't necessarily mean that she is stronger than Yoda. It just means that she knew more than he did and had access to knowledge that he did not. This is where it gets tricky, but with Jedi knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you can manipulate. In this way, Nomi is stronger than Yoda. But when we are talking about raw power and potential, we haven't seen anything to suggest that Nomi's strength eclipses that of Yoda's. If anything, they may be even with one another, or perhaps Yoda's potential is greater. The difference between them is that Nomi simply knew more ancient Jedi secrets than Yoda could ever learn. She had been trained under both Master Thrawn, a being who is said to know more about the light side than even the might of the combined Jedi Council, and Master Odan the the Jedi Archivist of the Great Library, a man who had been around for hundreds of years. Both of these Jedi Masters would give Nomi secrets that they would give to no one else, which is why she became Grandmaster. With the destruction of Ossus came a tremendous loss in Jedi knowledge and light side abilities that Nomi knew and Yoda did not. Had this not happened, Yoda absolutely could have mastered these abilities. But to wrap things up, to compare and decide who is more powerful, we would have to look at them in each category. And unfortunately, there just aren't enough feats from Nomi Sunrider. What we said about Nomi being in the Clone Wars was theoretical, as she has allowed her emotions to stop her in the past and become blindsided by them. Nomi has not only lashed out in rage and blocked someone from using the Force, but would make many similar emotionally driven decisions. And we're talking about this even after she was declared the Grandmaster. She never recovered from her loss of Ulic or her husband, as she kept personal holo pictures of them around, taking them with her wherever she went. Despite the fact that she is incredibly gifted in the Force, she carries with her a sense of helplessness instead of strength and leadership. In this way, Yoda is the massively superior Grandmaster. He may have been blinded by arrogance and dogma, but for the most part, he at least made decisions with wisdom and a clear mind. Even on matters that he disagreed with, such as Obi-Wan training Anakin, he would consider all of the angles and rule in the manner that benefited everyone. We've talked before about how Yoda was given a loaded deck in his time. At least Nomi had an enemy that she could see, Yoda did not. But nonetheless, potential to potential, Nomi Sunrider is clearly a rival of the Grandmaster. But anyway, my friends, what are your thoughts on this? And who is stronger, Nomi Sunrider or Grandmaster Yoda? Do you believe that Nomi could have stopped Sidious in the Clone Wars? And what are your thoughts on some of her greatest feats? As always, my friends, thank you so much for visiting and supporting the channel. And as always, may the Force be with you.